Well, I grew up, my personal background, I grew up in a very artistic family. Both my dad and my mom are writers. They were first journalists in the newspaper. That's how they met. They met at the office, as my dad was the editor and my mom was a writer in the office. So for me, as a child, I've always, when in Malaysian schools you have to fill up a book. Basically all your grades are there, and then you have to fill up, what you want to be when you grow up, and you have 3 spaces. So I always wrote penulis, pelukis, atau pemusik. It's either a writer, a painter, artist, or a musician. Now the funny thing is, when I wrote musician, I hadn't picked up an instrument yet. And my first exposure actually to music was hip-hop music, which is very far removed from what I'm doing right now, but still is an influence. I still listen to hip-hop. In fact, tomorrow I'm flying to Kuching for a session where I'm playing with a band. We're accompanying Ultimate for a kaki seni session. It's a different event. So it's coming full circle in some ways this whole week. How did I decide to be a musician? I think for most musicians that I know who have made it a career, you kind of don't have any other choice. It's sort of something that you feel a strong feeling that you want to do it. You can't imagine yourself doing anything else, basically. Because from a purely financial point of view, being a musician is possibly sometimes even worse than being a writer. It seems like it wouldn't be, but it is actually challenging. And so that's one part of it. For me, there's 2 sides of what I do. I'm also an educator, so I also teach. A lot of my time, about 5 days a week, I teach composition lessons, improvisation, and just learning guitar, different styles of guitar, and ukulele. And besides, on the other 2 days that I'm not teaching, I'm replying emails and writing and rehearsing and planning what's the next thing. I think my dad inspired me. If you have to zoom in some more, I just saw him when I grew up, as I was growing up as a child, I kept seeing him at the table writing something or reading a book, having coffee and then writing something and reading a book. And that was all I saw him do most of the time. Seeing how hard it is, but he was still dedicated to the craft. It's a routine. You do it every day. You wake up. For me, I wake up, I write something small, and it's just a process. And I think from that process, doing it again and again, hopefully you learn something about the world and yourself, and hopefully inspire others.